Good morning. As we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding a Chumash in the portion of Bechukosai, the last portion in the book of Leviticus. We are holding in the book of Leviticus, chapter 27, verse 22. The Torah continues to talk about when a person is makdish, he consecrates something to the Beis Hamikdash, he donates something to the temple. And the Torah continues the law. If he consecrates to the Lord, to the Beis Hamikdash, to God, a field that he had acquired, which is not part of what he inherited, Yakdish Lashem, and he sanctified it to God. Now she says there is a difference between acquired field, which in this pasuk is called the same mikna, and what's called a steachuzah, something that you inherited from your fathers. Namely, that was acquired field is not appropriate a portion among the Kehanim in the Jubilee, because the acquired field can consecrate the field only until Jubilee. For in the year Jubilee, the field is destined to leave the possession and revert to its original owner from whom he acquired it. So if you buy a field from somebody and you consecrated that field will ultimately return to one who you bought it from. Therefore, the original owner comes to redeem his property, he must redeem it with that fixed rate of violation for the field that was a part of an inheritance property of his field that he inherited. Should one who consecrated redeemed it according to the sages, he redeems it according to the market value. But if he does not redeem it and the treasurer sells it to someone else, or if he does redeem it, according to Taisus, if one redeems it and it remains in the possession of the treasurer, in the year of Jubilee, the field reverts to the one of whom were consecrated and bought it from, the original owner. That's a difference between a consecrated field and something that you inherited. At least you say that the expression la shekanu mi'itay. That's why this is a very complicated. You see from Rashi itself. So machlekes in the Gemara and machlekes in the Rishonim between Rashi and Tosfos, exactly how you learn from these psukim exactly. At least you say the expression la shekanu mi'itay in verse 24 below refers to the one whom acquired. Most recently acquired the field, namely the treasurer, because it was donated to him, and that the verse is thus standing there, it comes to the year Jubilee, the word refers to the treasurer. Therefore, it's necessary to state the verse 24, namely, that one who inherited the land, it was, meaning inherited from his ancestors, referring, therefore, to the original owner, not the treasurer, but it goes back to the original owner who was inherited the land. So there is a difference exactly when in the difference between inheriting a land or that you gave to the Beis Hamikdash, or you bought a land and then you gave it to the Beis Hamikdash. The Kohen shall calculate for him the amount of the valuation from until the year of Jubilee. And he shall give that valuation on that day. That money is Kodesh Hashem, belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. Shnas HaYovel, verse 24, which Rashi mentioned, in the year of Yovel, Yashav Asadol Shekanuhu, it shall return to the one who brought it. Me'itay from him, to one who inherited the land. Very interesting expression over here. So ultimately, the pasuk means that it goes back to the one who inherited land, the original owner. Any kind of evaluation that you do, this is also important that you should realize that over here, all these evaluations are not in money value what is today. It is the value what is in the shekel of Kodesh, in the Beis Hamikdash. Esrim Geda Yia shekel, which that evaluation is 8 shekel for 8 Geda is in a shekel of Kodesh. Not in a shekel, what's today called a shekel, but a shekel HaKodesh. Now she says, every valuation regarding which shekel are written is made according to the holy shekel, not what you call a shekel today. Estim Geda, 20 mars. This is how it was originally. However, in the later times, an added 6 instead of a dinner being 5 mana or Gedas, it became 6 mana. And indeed, the rabbis taught a dinner is comprised of 6 mars of silver. And since a shekel is worth 4 dinner, so there are 24 mars in one selah, in one shekel, as opposed to 20 mars in the shekel of the Torah. Verse 26, Lashem, the behema. However, firstborn animal that must be sacrificed as a firstborn to the Lord, lo yagdishu isay. No man may consecrate it because it belongs to begin with to God. Whether it's a ox or a sheep, Lashem hu, it belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. Rashi says, what's the Torah want to tell us? Self-understood. If it's already sanctified, how can you sanctify it for something? How can you sanctify it? It's already sanctified from birth. So the purpose of any other sacrifice, you can't say, listen, sanctified, I might as well use it out for a different sacrifice because it not belong to you, him. Therefore, you can't sanctify it for another sanctification, even though both of them are going to be brought to the Beis Hamikdash. A firstborn animal is designated as holy, be given to the Kehan. That's the firstborn of an animal is given to a kohen. So you can't say, I'm going to bring in a carbon. Verse 27. If someone consecrates an unclean animal, something like you can consecrate his dog. We'll soon see what it means over here. It doesn't mean a dog, as I said. He has to add a fifth to its value. And if it's not redeemed, she sold the valuation of price. Now she says, and if an unclean animal, this verse does not refer back to a firstborn animal discussed in the preceding verse. We cannot state the first unclean animal, that he may redeem it in paying valuation. But only clean animals, which the law of a firstborn applies to, the only unclean animal which this law applies to is a donkey. That's the only thing that is a bechor, that's an unclean animal. And this verse cannot refer to a donkey because the firstborn donkey can be redeemed only with a lamb, that's in the book of Exodus, which becomes a gift to the kohen and is not a given to the sanctuary. And there's not valuation of money in our verse. Rather, our verse is referring back to a consecrator of one's possession to the temple. The Torah says in the verse 11 to 13, we're speaking about a redemption of a clean animal that had been consecrated and subsequently blemished. And here the verse is speaking about a consecrated and unclean animal for the maintenance of the temple, not as a sacrifice, because you cannot consecrate an unclean animal as a sacrifice, but as you decided to give it as a donation, so that the Beis Hamikdash can ultimately sell it and use the money for the Beis Hamikdash. According to how much the kohen will assess the value, if the owner doesn't redeem it, then the kohen will sell it. Verse 28. Kol chedem. How anything that a man devotes to the Lord, Asher yachrim ish l'Hashem, which a person will devote to the Eibishter. The behema, whether a man or an animal, misdeachas dasef, inheritance of his field, lo yimker, he's not allowed to sell. V'lo yigal, he's not allowed to redeem. Kol chedem, anything that's chedem, kodesh kadoshim hu l'Hashem, it's holy of holy to God. This is a very interesting expression. Chedem doesn't in this verse in the English doesn't really translate the word chedem over here. It translates devotes. But Rashi says Nechla our rabbis are in dispute regarding the manner of a chedem, a devoted property. Some say it's unqualified vows of devoted property, and he says thereby I devote and doesn't specify, go automatically to the sanctuary monies designated for maintenance of the temple. What does it mean? Anything devoted to shall belong to you. This refers to a vow or devoted property specifically designated to the Kohanim, whereby somebody says this is chedim, devoted to the Kohen. Some rabbis say unqualified vows or devoted property automatically to the Kohanim. It's a whole, you got to go to the halacha chedim. But if shall be sold, shall not be sold, nor shall be redeemed. But it must be given to the Kohen. Because according to those who rule that unqualified vows of devoted property go automatically to the Kohen, they explain that the verse is referring to unqualified vows of devoted property, while those who rule that it's unqualified vows of devoted property go automatically to the sanctuary, maintenance of the temple, explain that this verse is referring to a vow of devoted property. We all agree that devoted property specifically designated to the Kohen does not have any redemption until it falls in the possession of the Kohen. And property that had become completely non-consecrated and can even be sold, can't even be sold by the Kohen. Devoted property to the one on the high is specifically designated to the maintenance of the temple, on the other hand, may be redeemed at market value even before it reaches the temple treasury. And redemption money go to the maintenance of the holy temple. And the property itself become non-consecrated. So let's see if we understand my next Rashi. Whoa. Those who rule that unqualified means when a person just says stam, I'm giving property to the temple. Unqualified vows of devoted property go to the maintenance of the temple. Bring this verse as a proof to the position. However, those who rule that unqualified vows, devoted property, go to the Kohen, explain the phrase here, all devoted things are holy of holies, to mean that the act of devoting items to Kohanim can take effect upon the animal sacrifice with the degree of holy of holies, indicating by the use of the double expression, Kodesh Kadoshim, and more, even the single expression is Kodesh, indicates that this act can be to take effect upon a sacrifice with the degree of lesser holiness. Thus, if someone undertakes to bring a sacrifice, allocates which animal he is to sacrifice, and then subsequently devotes that animal to the Kohen, he must give the relevant money to the Kohen and then sacrifice the animal for an offering he had undertaken. Just as he learned in the Tractate of Erechim, if I made a vow, a neder, to bring a sacrifice, meaning he said, I'll take upon myself to bring an animal as a sacrifice. In this case, if the animal has been allocated becomes lost or blemished, he must fulfill his vow with the replacement of an animal. For his vow was to bring a sacrifice, and it was not limited to that particular animal. That's the difference between the person says, Arei alai, arei zeh. Person says, I take upon myself to bring a sacrifice. He has to bring a sacrifice, even if the animals that he allocated ran away. If he said, Arei zeh, this is the sacrifice, the animal ran away. So then he doesn't have to bring another sacrifice. If in the case of a neder, he must give the Kohen the money worth the full value of the animal, which still considers fully his when he devoted to the Kohen. And if he committed himself to form a donation, a dover, saying that this particular animal is brought such and such a sacrifice, in this case, if the animal had been allocated, becomes lost or blemished, he need not replace it. That's the difference between neder and a dover. We learned also other places. For his undertaking was limited only to this particular animal. Therefore, if the animal is no more considered his, therefore in this case, when he devoted an adava, he need give only the monetary value, the benefit of the animal, which means, since in the case the animal is lost or dies, he would not be required to bring another one in replacement. Then once he has set the animal aside for the purpose of a particular sacrifice, he's considered to have already fulfilled his duty. And so actually sacrificing it becomes simple, a gift to God. As enjoying this gesture of presenting a gift to God is the benefit he has from the animal in which he also extended his monetary ownership. This benefit, this value is as follows. Someone else who was not obligated to bring the sacrifice is asked how much he would pay to have an animal sacrificed in his name as a gift to God. The amount that the person states is the amount that one's devoting must give to the Kohen. Then he must bring the animals of sacrifice as per his undertaking to bring as a donation. My Adam, to this all in the Gemara and Mishnah of Erchin, you can look it over there, Rashi in the Talmud Erchin chapter, page 28. My Adam, he's a person who gave as the donation his servants or his maidservants, non-Jewish maidservants, all of them belong to the Kohen, Kodesh Lashem, they all belong to the Kohen. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya of the day. I'm going to finish chapter 50 of Tanya. Alter Rebbe now explains that since this love of God is such that the soul is on the verge of expiring, kolsta nafshi. Alter Rebbe explained the ultimate aspect of love is when somebody serves the Eibishter because Kabbalah sale, not because of any gain, even spiritual gain. A person that has simply a desire to connect to God. That's it. It has nothing to do with the concept of my spiritual gain, the elevation of my inner soul. It has nothing to do with revelation. It has to do with God. That's it. That's what's called Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shamayim. The acceptance of the Yoke of heaven. That's really what's called Ana Avda Dekutcha B'Yichud. I am the servant of God. A servant does things because that's what he's obligated to do. Not because any gain, not because he's a servant. That's it. He's not going to gain anything. The guy who's an employee, he makes money. He's gaining something. But an Eved is an Eved. An Eved serves his master because that's his job. Finished. And that's the expression. I'm the servant of God. I do something because that's what the Eibishter wants. Finished. And that's the ultimate concept of Ava. I have the love of the Eibishter for the Eibishter. Not because of any spiritual revelation, not because of my spiritual revelation, not because of my connection. Bullshit. Because I love God. That was the expression of the Alter Rebbe. He used to say, I don't want your Gan Eden. I don't want your Elam Haza. I want you. So since this love of God is such a soul is on the verge of expiring, so you can reach up with such a love to a level where the soul wants to expire, wants to become part of God. It can't not aspire one directly to serve God, to tell him this is above. This is beyond the concept. Because the soul wants to leave. Therefore, the soul has to keep him reminded that he has to tell the mitzvahs. That even though he wants to leave, he's an Yasha. He's a concept of going. Ratzu, he's an aspect of connecting. He has to remember the shuv. He has to remember, no. He's needed here in this world to do this mitzvah. So that's why he says, in order for one's divine service, through the occupation of Torah, study and mitzvahs, that is a service deriving from his intense love. It's possible only in the manner of the shuv, the retreat. Meaning, when the soul withholds itself from expiring in order to fulfill a divine intent, which can only be realized when the soul remains in the body. He cannot do this mitzvah if he doesn't stay his soul in his body. So therefore, really, he wants to expire. He wants to connect to the Eibishter, which will take his soul out of his body. But then he realizes that the Eibishter wants him to do the mitzvah. And if he's a real servant of God, so even though he's connected to the master, he knows that the master wants him to do the mitzvah. As brought down in the book of Yitzira, Kabbalistic book. If your heart hastens, return to return to one. What means your heart hastens is running? That's the craving of the soul. The soul is in a constant mode of running forward because it has a desire. Which is the right side. When your soul is awakened and it's in fire, when this craving predominates and bursts into a flame and glows, that is such a rapture that the soul isn't consumed with desire to pour itself out, to embrace its father, its source, the one who gives it life, God. With the soul wants to leave the confinement of the corporal physical body. The soul wants to cleave to God and become one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what the soul wants to do. It has no desire. That's its true desire. So when one is consumed with such an incontainable, rapturous love, seeking even at the cost of self-extinction to become part of, attached to God, there must now be a deliberate return to one. You have to remember to return to God. What does that mean? This is what you should take to heart. The sages of blessed memory said in Pirkei Avos, the ethics of our fathers, despite yourself, you must live. What does that mean in a spiritual way? Despite your craving for expiring in klippas and eklois and nefesh, you must nevertheless stay alive. What does it mean you must stay alive? Beguf hazeh, in this body, to keep it alive. Why? To the purpose of drawing down the higher life force, the life force of life, means drawing down God, al dei Teiras Chaim, through this living Torah. So even though I have an unbelievable desire to expire, I realize it's not about me. It's not about my connection. It's about my service. That's what I came down to the world. Not that my purpose is to connect above only. My purpose is to bring down God to this world. Through this, there'll be a dwelling place through my mitzvah and my Torah. There'll be a dwelling place for God in this lower world. Achdusi Yisbarach, Bechinas Gilui, and created beings of blessed oneness in a revealed state. And that's my service. So it's about my service to God. So just as an ordinary dwelling, a person's identity is totally revealed, so will the true essence of the divine oneness be then revealed among the beings of the lower world through this mitzvah. So how spiritual I can get, and how much love I can acquire, I need to realize that I'm here to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not only about my desire to become part of God. It's not only about my essence. It's about God. And what I'm here for God. And what am I here for God? To reveal God in the world. Something that Alter Rebbe keeps on saying over and over. The Eibishter Sava HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter had a desire, that he would have a dwelling place in this world. And that's my service. And that's my zchus, to be able to bring God in this world. As I explained above, that the ultimate divine intent that a human being serve God should make the world a dwelling place for him. And this is the meaning of return to one. Retreat from your love of God in a state of klois hanefesh for the sake of the one, meaning for the sake of revealing God's oneness in the world. I mean, what is a lesson to all of us? Because most of us don't reach up even to this klois hanefesh, to this concept, what the Alter Rebbe is talking about. But it doesn't make a difference to the ultimate purpose. The ultimate purpose is return to one. The ultimate purpose is to remember to serve God, the servitude of God. Whether you reach up to the level of the highest level or not, we should all have this concept within us, that we're here to accomplish God's mission. What the Eibishter want in the creation of the world. So it's not only important what we need, our need, even our spiritual need. We have to remember what God's need is. And God's need is dida b'tachteinim. The need of God is to reveal. He should be revealed in this world, and therefore we need to push it, keep that front and center. And as I said before, that's how we say the expression. In kibanim, in kavadim. You can have two services of God as a son, as a child, and then you can have the service of an Eved, which we need both. We need the service as a child. We are the children of God, and and the Jewish people are my servants. Why it means they're servants? We are the servants of the Eibush to bring God to the world. It's not about us. It's not about our relationship. It's not even about our elevation. It's about God's purpose. And therefore, we should do either through the service of our elevation and our bonim, our relationship to our Father, or because to accomplish the will of our Father, the will of heaven. Accept upon itself the yoke of heaven. That's one of the reasons why it says Echad in the Shema. Shem Echad. The concept of Echad, of oneness, that the Eibishter wants to become one with the world, and that is accomplished through my Avodah, through my service. As it's brought down in the Zohar, there to be one in one. Pirush, what means one in one? The meaning is one in one is the one of a higher spiritual world or level shall become an aspect in the revealed world. It should become one in one. It should be revealed the oneness of God in this world. That this world, that really is a world of multiplicity, the concept of Lakim, which is a world of differences and multiplicity and many categories, many concepts, this should still be revealed the oneness of God. Because the oneness of God should be manifest, the oneness in the lower levels of the world. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. You have the two names of God in that verse itself. Hashem Yudke Vavke. Chesed Elokeinu is Gevura. Should be Echad, should be one. So even in the level of Gevura, even a level of this world should be one. Tonight, we're going to say, come to my beloved, to meet the Kala tonight. We're going to all sing together, in learning Klois HaNefesh. Kala and Kala is being at this Likras Kala. What is the meaning? The meaning is I say I'm going to go to my beloved, to the Kala, to my Klois HaNefesh, in the form of a love of God. One Klois HaNefesh should be expressed through causing my beloved to come, Likras Kala, to come, meaning through drawing down the beloved one, God himself, so that godliness will be revealed in this nether world, in this singular world, in this whole world. That's one of the reasons Why the last L'Chadaydi we turn around. L'Chadaydi Kaskala. We're bringing God, welcoming the Eibishter into our existence. Alter Rebbe didn't want to write the word mace. He wrote v'chulu. But in the Mishnah it says, Akar chatachai, Akar chatames. With this we'll understand the saying of the sages, despite yourself, even against your will, you must live. And despite yourself, you must die. From this saying, despite yourself, you must live, we learn in our service of God, we should in first instance desire the opposite of staying alive. And that's remaining alive within the body has to be prefaced against your will, right? Because really you want Kalei Nefesh, we explained. Really you want Kalei Nefesh. You want to leave your body. The soul wants to leave the body. What does the Mishnah say about Kar Chatachai? You have to live. On the other hand, in the second phrase, despite yourself, you must die. We learn that we should desire to remain alive. And that the opposite of like Kalei Nefesh should be against our will. So, Bakar Chachata Meis. If so, the question arises, then what should be one's desire? We can understand this according to what's explained above. First, what must come to the point where he can arouse within himself such an intense love of God that the one desires Kalei Nefesh. One desires to leave. Or remaining alive despite himself, only for the purpose of fulfilling God's will. That one reveals godness and his oneness in the world. This is the meaning of Akarchach Ata Chai. You are forced to live. Afterwards, although one already is in state of retreat, now he has the shuv that one should once more arouse within oneself the love of God to search even forward in Kalei Nefesh. In this way, one injects in the state of retreat into the world the higher spiritual quality. Furthermore, in a state of withdrawing back into the world, one can be drawn down into lowly mundane affairs. To forestall this possibility, one should once more arouse within himself the running forward, loving God into the state of Bakar Chatames. So Bakar Chatachai, according to this interpretation, is not that the Eibishter gives you life and the Eibishter puts you Chas Shalom will take your life. The Mishnah is talking about a Jewish person's avodah. Bakar Chatachai means when a Jew is in the state of Ratzui, he's in the state of going close to God and he wants to leave the world. No, force yourself to live. Force yourself to realize the greatness of this of the mitzvah. And once you're in retreat, you're in the shuv, you're going back to the world. Now force yourself to go back again to a rotzu, to again a will of a love of God. And it continues to go backwards and forwards. This rotzu v'shuv, this concept of going forward and then going backward and then going forward and going backward, needs to be a constant avodah. You're forced to make the retreat and then remember to force yourself to make the return. Not the return, the forward. You need to constantly have the rotzi, the will to come connect, and the will to do the service of God. Then do the will to connect, and then do the service of God. The will to connect, and do the service of God. So a person has to have the Mishnah Ness. According to this, the Alter Rebbe says the Mishnah Ness is telling us that a Jewish person, myself, have to be in a constant mode of desiring the love of God till expiration of soul, and realizing that that's not the ultimate. I need to do the mitzvah if I need to live. But in this life, I need to continue to search God and to have that desire to connect to God. So that will keep me busy. And chas v'shalom, that I'll not lose my soul. I'll not expire, God forbid, because I remember to do the mitzvah. but I will never get involved in the corporal world. I won't get involved in the world, in the mishigasin of the world. Why? The craziness of the world. Because I'll always have a desire to go away, to become part of godliness. And that's the cycle. Force yourself to live. And at the next step, force yourself to want to die. And as you reach the level of wanting to die, force yourself to live. And that's the way we can go on in serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Very interesting way to learn this Mishnah. So if we're still the possibility, one should be more aroused within oneself. The sensation running forward, loving God to the extent of Kaleis HaNefesh. This is the meaning of despite yourself, you must die. Meaning, against your will, which is now in a state of retreat. The very aspect is the Kaleis HaNefesh, the concept of expiring, which denotes the expiring and leaving the body. So therefore, a person should never forget that really the essence of himself should always want to cleave to God, even to the aspect of expiration. And that's Mesiras Nefesh. That's where you understand now why you say in the Shema, B'chol levavcha or B'chol nafshech, B'chol meidach. That's the concept of the concept of the Rotzi. V'ahavta Hashem b'chol levavcha nafshech. There's the concept of the Rotzi, the aspect of the person going forward. And then the second Mishnah, that's Kabbalah Seil. That's why the first Mishnah is Kabbalah Seil. That's why, you know, in Gemara, the first chapter, Shema, is Kabbalah Seil, when a person just gives himself over to God. And he's ready to give himself over. B'chol nafshech, he's ready to give it over. Right? The Rashi says, Afilu neitos nafshecha. Rashi says, what's the meaning when a person says, B'chol nafshecha, with all my soul, even if he takes my soul? Because I'm in the mode of Rotzi. I'm in the mode of becoming connected to God. And what's the second pasha? The laws of mitzvahs, Kabbalah mitzvahs. The retreat, the obligation in mitzvahs. That a Jew realizes that even though he has an unbelievable Rotzi, even though he has an unbelievable will and desire to have a connection to God, which is unlimited, he has that obligation of mitzvahs. And then he has to remember the first part of Shema. He has to go deeper. I'll give you myself over totally. And so on and so forth, my friends. As explained at length with reference to the Mishnah Pirkei Avos, which we just mentioned, despite yourself you must live, and with the help of life, Hashem Chaya Chaim Baruch Hu, with the help of the life, blessed be He, who enabled one to cope with the compulsion to live despite yourself. This means that one's love of God, when one's love of God is surging forward to Kaleis HaNefesh, one forces oneself against one's will to remain alive within the body in order to reveal down here in the world the life of life. That's what we want to accomplish. The divine force which gives life to the world. But then we don't want to get lost in the world. And our korcha hatames. You don't want to get lost in the world. You realize that the mitzvah and the Torah mitzvahs that's connected to the world, it's unbelievable. It's a service of God. But I want God. I want the Eibishter. And I have Bakar Chatames. But then I remember Bakar Chatachai. And so on and so forth. What a beautiful teaching of Tanya today. Truly beautiful teaching of Tanya. I'll answer your question in a second. So I'm going to ask the question over here. So I want to, today is the 23rd day of the month, which is chapter 108. So chapter 112, if you do those 5 chapters, you do the chitas of the day. Mitzhem, tomorrow Shabbos. I hope you do your chitas by yourself and do Shabbos and Vorchem. Tomorrow Shabbos and Vorchem. We bless the new month of Nisan, of Sivan. And it's also Shabbos Chazak. We end the third book of the Torah, Chazak, Chazak. And we shall all have a wonderful, beautiful Shabbos. We'll see each other, Mircham, on Sunday. We'll come together Sunday at 8 o'clock. We'll continue a new book of Bamidbar, and we'll continue to